Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Kevin Moore Show. Now, if you want to stay up to date with all my latest videos, just click that subscribe button below, as it really helps to support the show. So, if you're new to the show, I interview guests from a spiritual perspective, covering mainstream and alternative subjects and much more. On today's show, I'm about to be joined by my guest, Trey Hudson, and he's going to discuss his time spent on the Meadow project. Now, there are many epicenters of strangeness around the world that have been ingrained into our collective consciousness, much like the legendary Skinwalker Ranch in Utah, USA. Other similar locations comparable to Skinwalker Ranch are also located in America's Southland. This remote site, known among selected researchers, is simply known as the Meadow. The Meadow is the location of many astounding events, with its own reports of UFO, cryptid beasts, portals, missing time, crop circles, men, women in black, orbs, strange beams of light, mystery beings, and many other oddities. Trey Hudson, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Trey, it's great to have you on. So your book that we're going to discuss today, which is the Meadow Project, the explorations into the South's Skinwalker Ranch. For some of us, and for me as well, really, we don't know what the Skinwalker Ranch is, and what is the connection with the Meadow Project and whatever the Skinwalker Ranch is.
Right. The Skinwalker Ranch is a location located in Utah, here in the United States, in United County. It's on the extreme western border of Utah, kind of tucked up in the northern corner, just across the border from Colorado. It has a very rich history going all the way back to First Nations persons with the Oneida tribe there, calling the land cursed or evil or taboo. And in their culture, they have a group of evil shaman who have embraced, to coin the term, the dark side, and create all kinds of negative things, kill people and things like that. And they are called skinwalkers because they can manifest themselves into different type of animals and beings. This particular area came into prominence back in the mid-90s when it was bought by a ranching couple who started having very strange phenomena happen on their ranch. And it's a very isolated, arid, remote area. And they had everything from UFOs, cryptid sightings, strange phenomena going on in their homes, almost like poltergeist activity. And later, a man by the name of Robert Bigelow, who owns Bigelow Aerospace, big aerospace corporation, bought it. And he established a group of people known as the National Institute for Discovery Science, or NIDS. And NIDS received some contracting from the U.S. government, some funding. And they went and did a series of scientific investigations, bringing a lot of technology to the equation. Robert Bigelow sold it to a man named Brandon Fugel, who is a real estate mogul there in Utah, in Salt Lake City. And he has continued the research, albeit his research is a little bit more forthcoming. There's actually a television show here in the States about some of the research they're doing. And when I started experiencing some of the strange phenomena and incidents of high strangeness in the Meadow, correlations became very apparent. Even though that these sites were, 1,000+ miles apart, the phenomena was the same. We've had at our location UFOs, cryptids, beings of energy, if you will, strange visitors like men in black, and all of these strange things. So the parallels are very apparent when you start looking at it.
Okay, so a little bit of background on yourself then. You're still serving, or you're still working, shall I say, for the U.S. government?
I cannot confirm or deny I still work for the government. I will say that I've had in excess of a 31-year career with the United States government.
Okay.
And take that for what it is.
Yeah. Okay. Which is a long time serving, absolutely. But you've also got this interest in the paranormal as well.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
And yeah, it's a strange cross, isn't it? On both sort of both hands, I suppose. One with the federal government, and one with this paranormal work that you do. And how long have you been working or been active in the Paranormal Society? I think it's the Oxford Paranormal Society you're part of.
Yes, I've been involved with them since about 2008.
2008. Okay, well, not too long then. Or is it? It doesn't feel that long ago, right? And you're a lot younger than I thought you was going to be. For some reason, I just thought in my head, oh, you'll be a bit older. Okay, let's just go straight to the Meadow project then. So,
Sure.
how did you come across the Meadow project? And you're not going to disclose where this is. Not like the Skinwalker Ranch, where everyone who has got an interest
Right.
in that would maybe be able to know where it is. This is somewhere that you discovered, well, kind of by accident, I suppose. But then there is a story behind it.
Oh, well, yeah, of course, by accident. It all started basically doing research. I've always had an interest in the paranormal ever since I was a young child back in the 70s. And I was researching folklore and strange happenings in this particular region where this particular location is. And I started hearing anecdotal reports and also folklore of a haunted road, you know. And for me, if there's a road and the locals tell you don't go down that road, it's dangerous and haunted, that's waving a red flag in front of me. Of course I'm going to go. I'm just, that curious fellow that's going to throw caution to the wind. And during our investigations of this haunted road, which didn't pan out, we started having some amazing happenings at our base camp. This is a very remote, desolate area. And we started having amazing events happen at our base camp.
Okay, so you find this area. You know that there's something very different about this area. It's got a lot of history as of being different in a sense, of stories coming from this area.
Oh, absolutely. Once we kind of drilled down onto this particular meadow or field, in this mountainous region. I started doing a little bit more research, and it's about the first 25% of the book is the background of this region. And the more you peeled the onion and started looking at the individual layers, there was a very rich history of Bigfoot sightings or cryptid, Sasquatch type stuff, UFOs, a lot of ghost stories, and just really, really weird, strange happenings. So it really doesn't come to any surprise that these type of phenomena are ongoing, and that we were able to not only discover them, document them, but continue to experience them.
Okay, and let's go to that first time of going on the land and staying on the land. And how many weeks did you spend on the land initially, and how many of you went as well?
We usually spend 2 to 4 days. Unfortunately, we have jobs, and we have families and have things that we have to do. So the first time was about 3 days. And while we were investigating and researching this haunted road, one of our members had an amazing UFO sighting while the rest of the team was off. And that weekend it was 3 of us initially, and then we ended up being 6 members in total. And while we were investigating the not so haunted road, as it turned out to be, he had a UFO sighting. Like I said, he was relieving himself of a overindulgence in coffee and other carbonated beverages, and he was behind the camp taking care of that business. And it was a very cold, drizzly, miserable evening in the wintertime. And he looks up and he sees a luminous orb appear. And he thinks to himself, well, very good. The moon is coming out. The sky is clearing. The weekend is going to be a little bit nicer. And as he's watching the moon, it starts to move sideways. Now, I don't know about on your side of the Atlantic, but on this side of the Atlantic, the moon does not move sideways. That you can laugh at that. That's a joke. No,
I'm keeping up. I'm keeping up. I'm just staying quiet. That's all. Go ahead.
I'm kidding.
It's funny.
But, so the moon, moves from the right to the left and then stops. And in the middle of this luminous orb, looking very much like the moon, a very small black dot appears. And this black dot starts growing, very much like the iris of a camera, until it completely almost obliterates this orb, and all he's left with is a circle of light, like a necklace of diamonds effect during an eclipse. And then it completely blots out this orb.
Okay, now let me get this right. So why did you guys separate? Why did he stay on his own as well?
So that's a good question. What we do is we usually have somebody stay back at base camp, and their job is to watch, our equipment and our gear and the location, and we will have teams go out from base camp, and they're in radio communications back with base camp. Now, this particular evening, we were about 20 miles away, so we were able to patch into a local radio repeater, and bounce our signal back down to him. So he was there basically not expecting any kind of activity, just there kind of minding the store while we were out investigating.
Okay. And was there any missing time for him, does he feel?
Not this time.
Not this time. Okay.
Yeah.
But let's just stay on this one. So, but he never radioed that in. Are you saying that you never found out until the next day?
We found out when we returned back to camp, and he was toying with us a little bit because we were expecting to have the experiences out on this supposedly haunted road. So he was toying with us and said, wait until you get back, and I will tell you what happened to me.
What that was radioed in. So I'm just trying to put the pieces together.
He radioed when we started coming back to camp. He said, "Did we experience anything?" And we said, "Not really." And he says, "Well, wait until you get back, and I will tell you what happened to me."
What do you think that did for him when he witnessed what he did, and how quickly did it disappear in a sense?
It was probably 60 seconds. It wasn't a very, long, drawn-out thing. It made a very, very large impression on him. It reinforced the belief that there was something special about, maybe not at this time the specific site, but most certainly about this region.
Interesting. Okay, well, keep going on, because there's obviously other times that you went, and maybe there's more to this as well.
Oh, much, much more. We went back, and that was in January of 2016. So we decided to go back later that year in the summertime, in July.
How many people?
We brought about 8 with us that time.
All right, so more this time. Yeah, okay.
Right. So we have a pretty good sized cadre of folks that go out with us. And what we decided we were going to do this time is we had found a field near base camp where this UFO experience had happened. And we decided to look into this field and maybe use it as a base of operations for research, primarily because it's a large open area. You can see if anything moves across it, it'll leave tracks or disturbed vegetation. We are equipped with what are called FLIR units, which are thermal scopes, thermal monoculars, and we can look out across a large field and see any kind of heat signature. So we thought this field would be a really good place to research. So what we did that particular evening is we set up several teams in the middle of the field, and we were going to have one individual walk across a ridge that runs to the south of the field, and this ridge runs from east to west. He was going to start on the east side, traverse the ridge to the west, drop down into the field, and work his way back east. Basically make a big circuitous route. And the idea behind that is if he encountered anything, hopefully he would drive it down into the open field, and we would be able to see it and record it and maybe even experience it. So our teams went out and got set up in the meadow and radioed back that we were ready for him to start traversing his ridge. And this gentleman was by himself. And after a little while, he came back on the radio and he said, "Hey, I need to tell you something. I just reached," and he named a known landmark, that we all know where it was. And he said, "I don't remember how I got here." So the first thing that popped into our mind was, maybe he had some sort of medical event, an epileptic issue, a stroke, maybe an aneurysm, something like that. So we have several paramedics on our team, and they quickly took charge and got on the radio, and they said, "Do you have bilateral feeling in your hands and feet? Do you have a headache, et cetera, et cetera?" And he said, No, I'm fine. I just don't know how I got here." So we, kind of shrugged our shoulders and, put this up to just, something weird happening, and decided to continue with our operation. So this gentleman continued across the top of the ridge from east to west, dropped down into the western edge of the field. Nothing was stirred up. Nothing was driven down towards us. Nothing out of the ordinary. And when he dropped down into the west part of the meadow and started working his way east, one of our teams picked him up on their FLIR scope, and they saw a man-shaped heat signature, moving across the meadow. Now, the two individuals on this team, let me give you a little bit about their background. Gentleman number one has a management degree from the Georgia Institute of Technology, which is a very high-rated Tier 1 technical university here in the States. He has a master's degree in public administration. He has been a paramedic for many, many, many years and is a very solid, grounded individual used to crisis situations with a high degree of education. The gentleman that was with him also has a dual degree from the Georgia Institute of Technology in physics and philosophy. He spent several years in the elite U.S. Army's Ranger Regiment. So he has a special operations background and works in IT. Once again, very solid, credible, reliable person used to crisis situations. So back to our story. They were watching this gentleman approach them across the meadow, in which, to their surprise, on their FLIR equipment, their thermal equipment, they see his heat signature turn into a sphere or a ball, a circle, an orb, if you will, and move at a high rate of speed and stop, and then turn back into a man-shaped heat signature. We calculated the speed that this orb moved from point A to point B, and we calculated it to be about 25 miles per hour. The top athlete in the world could not move over this terrain at 25 miles per hour. It is impossible. It's also worth noting this is the same man that had the missing time. So once again, we were thinking perhaps his brain had been scrambled sometime during this event. So they got on the radio and they said, "Are you okay?" And he says, "Yes, I'm fine. Why are you asking?" And they said, "Maybe you better come over and talk to us before we put it on the radio. You put it out over the airwaves." So he came over and they discussed it. And he said, "I have no idea of what you're talking about, but from my perspective, I was just merely walking across this field like I always do. I wasn't moving at a particularly rapid pace. It was regular to me." So the question is, and we still debate this to this day when we sit around the campfire having adult beverages, is whose perception was altered? Was it the subject who turned into the orb? Was his reality altered, or was it the observer? Was their reality altered?
Now, did things like this also happen on the Skinwalker Ranch? Phenomena that?
Well, not exactly like that, but they have strange phenomena too.
Well, that is strange what you're describing there. Really strange. It's almost like, well, he's been replaced by something else and then put back in, and then he's got no missing time, yet he's got no memory of it, as though it was a blink of an eye. He's walking, yet he's that's just okay. And even to this day, he doesn't know what happened, or to him nothing happened. It was you were the issue, in the sense, you guys, that malfunction equipment or whatever it was.
No. Yeah, sure. From his perspective, it was nothing more than a leisurely walk in the woods. And from our perspective, it was something that we witnessed that was absolutely amazing. But the strangeness does not end there for this trip.
No, so just give us the reference for this next one then. Is this still within the same time frame of you? There's 8 of you. You've come here to record this phenomena. Is it still within that time frame?
Yes, it's literally the next morning. And the next morning, as we were gathered around our campfire eating, our breakfast, be that what it was, he came over to us and had his GPS in his hand. Now, a little bit of background about this gentleman. He is a retired law enforcement officer and spent many, many years doing backcountry search and rescue in the state of California and some of the most rugged terrain that state has to offer. They would literally helicopter him in, drop him off. He would find deceased or missing hikers or whatever. They would medevac the individuals, and he would have to find his way back. So that's kind of the kind of guy he is. And he has a very, very good habit of always running the tracking feature on his GPS that records, his movements. And so he came to us and he showed us his GPS and he goes, I want all of you to look at this. And he pulled up the topographic map, on the screen of the area where we were at. And there were several tracks that the GPS said that he had traveled. And these tracks were straight lines of 2 to 4 kilometers, like point A to point B to point C to point D, something like that. Except you can't travel in a straight line in this terrain. It's impossible.
Yeah, so he was flying, or whatever was flying, or levitating. When was this supposed to have happened? Did it give timestamps on when that was? Was this the day before or something it happened, or on the day?
This was the timestamp was from the time that he started walking to move across the ridge until the end of the evening's exercise
of the day. Day before.
Yeah, that evening when he had the missing time and turned into the orb of energy and all of that.
That is wow, that's crazy, isn't it?
No, we have no explanation for it. And the sad thing is we were so amazed by it, and there were four or five witnesses that he showed his GPS to, and we were like, well, as soon as you get home, hook up the sync cable, download it, send the maps and the tracks to us. We'd like to analyze it. And when he got home, like you find in so many of these cases, everything was erased. There was no evidence of it other than us seeing it on his GPS screen that morning.
Why would he have deleted that for?
Oh, he didn't delete it.
Okay. So, on that same day, anything else, or the next few days after?
Well, strange you should mention that. That evening, prior to this gentleman showing us his GPS track, we had one of our team members who is primarily our base camp operator. He runs a radio net control, runs base camp, keeps logs, deployment of teams, and things like that. And we run it in almost a militaristic kind of way, not because we want to be military, but because it just works. It's a good way to run an operation. And this gentleman's name is Glenn. Glenn's background: he's a career paramedic. Spent many years as a flight medic, going to some of the nastiest parts of the world and medevacing people, out of these locations on Learjets. So that's his background. Very, very credible person. And he woke up about 2 or 3 in the morning and had to relieve himself. And as he's taking care of that, he notices about 30 to 40 meters away from our campsite, a large humanoid type figure watching us from around a tree, which is very interesting because part of the folklore of this area involves a white Sasquatch or humanoid creature. And he went to go wake up another one of our team members who has a very high-end thermal sight, FLIR unit. And by the time that she could get her wits about her and get her equipment, this being was gone. So the next morning, after we were baffled in amazement over the GPS track, we went over to where he saw this thing. And many people on our team are trained trackers. We're used to tracking human beings and bipedal things through the woods. So we were looking for any disturbances in the ground, any marred or modified vegetation, any scuffs on the trees, anything like that. And we could find no evidence that this being was there, other than Glenn's affidavit that was what he witnessed that night.
Yeah, and that's all that you've got to go by, and that's probably good enough. I mean, you guys know this man, and
oh yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I always tell people with this particular case, it has 2 things going for it. One is the amazing amount of incidences and events. So we have an amazing quantity of events, but likewise, we have an amazing quality of the experiencers. These are just very solid people. We're not a bunch of high school kids running around in the woods, with our cell phones, trying to scare one another. These are all professional, educated people.
Yeah, including yourself as well. time served in what you're doing, which is great, right? For this particular exploration, shall we say, right, into whatever this
Right.
is, right? So let's keep going forward. So if there was another event that was in the same time frame, or are we going to skip to the next time of going to the meadow?
What we're going to do is skip forward several months into the month of February in 2017. So we're about 6 months advanced. And we thought we were onto something very special here. So we had some guest researchers come down from the Carolinas. One gentleman's a very well-known cryptid researcher in the eastern United States. It's some of his friends. And when we had the missing time and the ball of energy, we changed our protocols a little bit. We decided that it was not a good idea to have anyone go out by themselves. So everybody has a team member with them, another team member. They always have radio communications. They have at least a GPS, if not a GPS, map and compass. Really tight protocols as far as communications. No teams move without permission. So we really tightened up our operation quite a bit. And we decided we were going to run the same type of protocol that we did the time before. We were going to have a team, except this time it's consisting of 3 members, run across the top of the ridge, work their way across, see if anything happened. Well, I was on the team that was running across the top of the ridge. And as we started to drop down into the western end of the meadow, one of our team members picked up on his FLIR several man-sized heat signatures. And basically, they were like a vertical column of heat. That's the way it presented itself on this piece of equipment. Maybe 6 foot tall, 24 to 30 inches wide. And these heat signatures kept morphing from multiple signatures into one signature into multiple signatures. And we have this on video. We quickly radioed to make sure that we knew of the location of all the other teams. This particular heat signature did not correspond with the location of any other team. So we're onto something. The game is afoot. So we dropped down into the meadow, and as we started working our way east, we had a call from one of our teams that was in the middle of the meadow. And they said, we're watching on our FLIR something very unusual. We are watching these large boxes or cubes form on the edge of the wood line. And they said these boxes were about 10 meters by 6 meters by 6 meters, these large. Imagine a cube, just a cube. So, we obviously started getting kind of excited about this. So we made our way over to them, and they said, hey, it's kind of dissipated a little bit, but, maybe we ought to investigate. So we decided to dispatch a team over to where these cubes were, and they were guided by the original team of observers. Where it gets really weird is when our teams approach that area. And let me stop right here. This is in the wintertime. This is in February. There's no vegetation on the trees. There are no bushes. Everything is dead.
And also,
in the wintertime.
How far away are you from any sort of roads as well while you're on this site?
We are probably about a mile away from some roads.
A mile away?
We actually have to hike in. It's about a quarter-mile hike.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
wow.
We have to carry all of our gear, into this location.
Okay, so it's not, people aren't just passing by. Yeah.
No. It's nobody out for a stroll.
And also air traffic is few and far between, I guess, in this particular area.
Well, now this area there is a bit of air traffic. You will see aircraft.
Is that military or?
No, civilian.
Okay, so there is okay. And just before we go into the story, what you captured there on that day with the heat flare, is that still with you? Do you still have that data?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And is that on your website at all?
No, it's not. My website is horribly out of date, and I apologize for that. Now, what I am going to be doing is the first public disclosure of this video. And the video I'm getting ready to tell you about is probably the most amazing. Will be in Nevada in June at the Laughlin Mega UFO Conference.
Oh, cool. Okay, and then that's going to be available on your working website, or your website?
I haven't decided. I have some contractual obligations about that, and I'm not really ready to disclose what I'm working on.
Trey, what is your website then? If people just want to see a bit more information on yourself?
Probably the best way to do it would be go to our Oxford Paranormal Society Facebook group. Like I said, our website hasn't been updated in a while, and it's actually kind of pathetic. Or you can go find me on Facebook as Trey Hudson-author is another way to find me.
Was there two Facebook websites you were going to mention there, or was that just the one?
Yeah, one is the Oxford Paranormal Facebook group.
Right.
And the other one is my personal Facebook page.
Well, we're linking that in the description below now. So just go to the bottom of this video, just press the description tab, and it'll just reveal all the links and the links to the not just the Facebook pages but the book as well. So let's just go to that story, and I'll let you continue because this is going to be fascinating.
Oh yeah, this is actually the as far as I'm concerned, the crown jewel of our investigations, thus far, is as we dispatched a team to the area to where these cubes were seen, were observed through the thermal devices, and like I said before, there was no vegetation, and if you've ever seen military footage or police footage of thermal cameras, you can't hide from them. They're very, very unforgiving, when it comes to trying to be stealthy. So as our team moved into this area, they disappeared. They vanished.
Yep.
They completely were obscured or masked by something. And we actually have one of our operators saying, did they just disappear? No heat signature at all of them. And when I asked them what that was like, they said they went into this area. They were not encumbered in any way. There were no brambles. There were no vines. There were no briars. There was nothing like that entangling them or encumbering them and going into this area. And when they got there, they said it was very dark, almost like they were surrounded by a dark velvet curtain, very black, very dense, very quiet. And when they turned around to come out, they encountered brambles and vines and briars and other things to encumber them as they were making their way out. So it's almost like it was a little bit different environment when they went in, and it returned to the normal woods-like environment when they were going out. And you can see on the video them actually starting to reappear, wink back into existence as they come out of this. So we have all this on film. And to my knowledge, and I'm going to use a label, I'm going to use the P word, portal. This is the only known footage I know of people that have been filmed going into and coming out of a portal.
But again, this footage is not available to be viewed.
People have seen it. I have provided it to other hosts beforehand, so they can get an idea of what we're talking about.
But why not amass? Well, why not? There's a YouTube video.
Okay, I'll tell you why. Is I'm under contract with for television, and the big reveal would be part of that.
Could it be debunked easy?
Sure, absolutely. Somebody could say, you walked behind, a copse of trees that was there, or you made all this up. And what folks have to realize is it doesn't matter to me, whether people believe this or not. The only reason I'm putting this out there is this isn't my story. I'm not going to withhold this. This is the world story. And if people find some enjoyment or edification from it, so be it. If they think it's a bunch of boulder dash, then once again, so be it. I'm perfectly comfortable either way.
I really think I want to use another word for you that you want to use, but I won't use it right now. But yes, I hear you. Okay, so there's that incredible thing. The next one. What is the next thing?
The next thing is, as we were gathering, and let me back up. We also have this entire cadre of people that witnessed this. So, I have a stack of affidavits, from these individuals. We, as we were deciding whether we wanted to stay and investigate or return and do a debriefing or an after-action review, I got a call from our base camp operator, and he said, there's somebody here that wants to see you.
Okay,
and I'm thinking...
And how far away was the base camp operator again?
About a quarter mile.
Quarter mile. Okay, yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, I'll see you when I get there. And he goes, no, it's somebody else. So as we work our way back to base camp, I get there, and there is a woman there, a businesswoman, in the middle of the forest in the wintertime at 10:30 at night. And she's wearing loafers, slacks, a blouse, and a blazer. Yeah, but wearing business attire. And, I call her the mysterious businesswoman of the forest, where certainly a businesswoman ought not be.
Well, did you believe it when you saw her? I mean, what were you thinking when you first saw her?
Well, I just was incredulous. It's like, who is this person? Why are they here? And quite frankly, I don't have time to deal with them right now. We wanted to try to do an after-action review and a debrief as quick as possible while all of these events were fresh on our mind. And we did end up getting about a 40-minute video debrief, so we were able to do that. But this woman kept insisting that we drop what she's doing and follow her to a deserted road in this nature preserve. And she claimed at the end of this deserted road was a structure that was inhabited by creatures that she called monkey bears. Now, I don't know what a monkey bear is, but apparently this was something that she was intrigued by. And I would absolutely not go down some deserted road in the middle of the night with a stranger,
Okay, and when you were talking to her, how many of you were around her at that time?
No, 6 to 8.
6 to 8. Okay.
Yeah, it was
6 to 8 witnesses. Yep. Okay.
No, absolutely. And she seemed high or inebriated. Like something was off about her. And she kept refusing and not picking up on our social cueing that we wanted her to go. Like you would, wish her a good night, safe travels, and she wouldn't pick up on that cueing. And then she started talking to me. And she said, oh, well, where did you go to university? And I said, well, I went to the University of West Jordan. And she goes, that's strange. I did too. Okay, that's odd. And she goes, well, what did you study there? Well, I have a degree in psychology and a minor in anthropology. She goes, that's strange. I have a degree in psychology too from that university. And I think, okay, you're just telling me what you think I want to hear. So I was going to trip her up. And I said, oh, well, what were some of the professors you had while you were there? And she started naming professors that I actually had and actually knew personally. So you have a businesswoman in the middle of the forest in the wintertime at night in business attire who happened to go to the same university I did and happened to have the same professors I did.
Isn't no one asking her, how the hell did you get here?
She had an automobile, so she had a means of travel.
But did you see the automobile?
Yeah, we saw it.
Well, yeah, but you've got to hike up to this point, haven't you?
No. You have to hike to the Meadow. The base camp you can drive to.
Oh, right. So sorry. Okay,
that's fine.
Just to clear that up, right? Okay. So
no problem.
You saw her car. You could see her car. What car was she driving? What do you think it was?
It looked like a small Toyota RAV4 or something, like some sort of small crossover.
So it was utterly crazy that she was there, that she was interacting with you guys in the sense that, she had to come out here. She had to know of this place, would you say? You had to be aware, right. Yeah. And that she's wearing and she's quite clean kept in a sense, hair.
Yeah. A middle-aged businesswoman.
Yeah.
But where it gets really weird, though, is as she's talking to us, she says, excuse me, and she steps about 20 to 30 yards just out of our camp, still within the luminescence of our lanterns, and she squats down and urinates in front of us.
Okay, so she felt very comfortable with you all then. I don't know. Okay, that's kind of all right. So that's weird. Yeah, very, very. So didn't you guys think then when she was doing that, right, she's either off her face or this isn't, there's something so bizarre here. I mean, what did you guys say to her? Do you want some toilet roll? I mean,
yeah. Do you need a leaf? No. We actually we wanted her to go away because we were all very uncomfortable with this situation, and she finally left. And we did get a name, And upon research, we did find an individual of that name that matched the person that was there.
How did you do that? I mean, if you didn't get a social security or her address.
Well, the name, the region, do a little bit of data mining.
Oh, she told you the region. Okay.
Yeah. We knew the region we were at, and she claimed she was from that general area.
That she was from.
Yeah. So we found out that she is a professional, and it's a profession that requires a license from the state. And I'm not going to go into it because I don't want to embarrass her. So there were two options. Either we encountered a professional, educated woman having the absolute worst night of her life, where if that became public, it might ruin her career, or B, it was somebody mimicking a real person.
Wow. When did you come up with that idea that this may not be the real person, it may be a mimic? When did you even come up?
Well, those were the only two options that were available. either this was her, or it wasn't.
Yeah, but to come up with that, you're either watching too many, species movies, or that's not the normal thinking, is it? That this may not be what I think it is, or who I think it is.
Well, where this kind of came, to the forefront is I started doing a little bit more research, and I didn't start off as a geologist or anything like that's not my background, but I started looking into that, and started looking into people's accounts of encounters with the legendary Men in Black, and some of the things started coming up to the forefront. You're not dressed for the occasion. They don't pick up on social cueing. Their communications skills are often odd. They don't understand manners, i.e., don't just go out and urinate in front of people. And they try to dissuade you from your investigations or your, whatever your mission or operation is. Very good detailed encounters of that are in John Keel's book, The Mothman Prophecies.
Oh, great movie, by the way, as well, and great books. Yeah. Oh, yes, but what are they then? I mean, what are, if there was any connection with what you've just talked about there, what the hell is it then? What is the Men in Black in your understanding then?
I really don't know. It's one of those things that it's these strange, are they synchronistic? Are they accidental? Are they, tulpas? Are they manifestations of us, that we project these thoughts into appearing? I really don't know.
Ultra weird.
Yeah, it is.
But,
right.
And then you just saw her drive off? Is that what happened?
And she just got into her car and left. And it left us with such a strange feeling. I went to my friend that I mentioned earlier, who was served with the U.S. Army Ranger Regiment. And I said, Tim, do you have your sidearm on you? Your pistol? And he said, yes, I do. I said, I am not comfortable with this whole situation. I said, I'm armed also. Let's just back off about 50 yards from the camp and just do a circle to make sure she didn't leave anybody behind. Because it was just so unnerving and so strange that we wanted to make sure that we were safe and we weren't going to have any kind of surprises. One thing that kept going through our mind is maybe she was setting us up to be robbed or ripped off, of our expensive equipment. That was what we were thinking initially.
Well, that would make some logical sense with the way she was acting. Do you know what I mean? But still, how did she find you? If this is all sort of, done with the contracts between you guys, isn't there? I mean, no one's allowed to talk about it publicly of where you guys are doing this research, and even the people that you bring on board. So it's just very, very weird. Okay, let's go to another point then.
Okay, we're going to fast forward almost a complete year now to April 2018. And we decided that this certainly was something special. We have found something unique that's worthy of further research. And we decided what we were going to do is take a look at another meadow, another field, very similar to the one that we were investigating, trying to figure out if this was a localized event or if it was more broad geographically. Unfortunately, this other field was about a 7-mile cross-country hike to get to. So we picked a pretty rugged cadre of individuals, and we backpacked cross-country to this remote area.
And how far is this from the original site?
About 7 miles.
So you got the original meadow, and then on the same land, you're going 7 miles out.
Right.
Wow, that's a long trek. Okay, keep going. Thank you.
So we hiked out there, and other than being just very arduous and difficult, we made it to this location. We took a look at it, very much like the original meadow, very very pretty, very bucolic, very peaceful, very nice place, somewhere you'd want to picnic. And encountered nothing strange. We did some nighttime research and investigations and stakeouts, and had nothing odd happen to us. And we decided we were going to turn in for the evening. Now, several of us were sleeping in hammocks, and we had one individual that had a small bivvy tent that he set up in the middle of a fire break, which, I don't know if you are familiar with fire break, but they're just basically cuts through the forest that keep a fire from jumping and burning up the rest of the forest. It's like a sort of a road kind of thing, but it's not really a road. It's just a wide path. So he set up in the middle of this fire break. He and another team member were awoken early that morning, about 2 o'clock, with a beam of light, a bright beam of light shooting down this fire break. And both individuals said that it was unlike headlamps or flashlights that any of us had with us. And it also didn't correspond with any of our team members shining a light around at that period of time. Later on, about 5:30 that morning, one of our team members saw a very diffused reddish glow in the west, almost like a sunrise, but obviously the sun doesn't rise in the west. This corresponds with numerous reports in this area of strange lights or glows in the forest. So all of this, we're seeing lights. Lights. We saw plenty of lights that flickered and stuff when we saw these boxes previously in the other meadow. So as we were getting our gear together, the gentleman that was camped inside of the fire break called us over to look at his backpack. His backpack, he had set it upright. He had his hip belts on the left and right, supporting it, so it was sitting vertically. And when he walked over to his pack, he noticed there was a stick of about 1.5 inches in diameter that was under the left-hand side of the hip belt underneath, and it went over the top of the right-hand hip belt. So it was under one side on top of the other. And we were thinking, well, maybe you set it down and it on top of a sapling and it broke. And so we looked for, a small stump where it could have, broken off from. We looked for maybe a tree where it could have fallen from, and we could never determine, where this particular stick came from. It's also not unlike some of the gifting activities and behavior that people have reported that are dealing with Sasquatch, strange little gifting, things like that. So, we just wrote that off as another weird happening in this region. And when we got back, we found out that our teams that we left behind, because we still had 2 teams that stayed back at base, had gone back out to the meadow, the original meadow, and discovered something unique themselves. What they discovered were a pair of parallel tracks, almost like a vehicle tracks, about 4 feet wide, parallel. But the meadow at that time had grass about 12 to 18 inches high. And these tracks started in the meadow, went for a distance, and then stopped. So it was like something was dropped down in there, traveled a distance, and then was lifted out. They couldn't tell how whatever made these tracks got there. So they were really more akin to linear crop circles, that kind of thing, because when they started describing the vegetation, it was pressed over, not broken. There were small features inside of the track lines, like ant hills and things that were not compressed. There was no visible tread marks, like from a tire. And so that was just another weird happening, of the Meadow. And, once again, I've got affidavits of that. We've got those track lines. We're trying to pull it off of some of the GoPro cameras that our teams were running there. So I've got to pull the videos and the stills off of that. It's one of those things, they got home, downloaded it, forgot where they downloaded it. So we're trying to get that. But that was just another a strange thing, there at the Meadow. And we had two other gentlemen go out that afternoon to these tracks. And at the end of the tracks, they started noticing another cube, another box, if you will. This one was about 3 meters by 3 meters by 3 meters, and it was only showing up on their full spectrum cameras. So they were very excited about encountering this, and they went to go take a photograph of this, and they realized the operator had forgot to put the SIM card in the camera. So we were not able to get a photograph of the full spectrum cube. But unfortunately, that happens sometimes. That's what happened this time.
Understood. And I know that time is just ticking away right now. Is there any? Because there's a lot to this story, but I mean, what were some of the other more recent sightings or more recent experiences that you had as well? Yeah.
As recently as June of 2020, less than a year ago, we were right in the midst of COVID here in the States, and the Department of Natural Resources had closed down any kind of developed campsites. So our base camp that we usually use was closed. They were not letting us congregate there. They were allowing dispersed camping in the forest. So we went and we found another location several miles away, about 5 miles away. And we decided we were going to try Dr. Stephen Greer's CE5 protocols in the Meadow at night. So we went out there and, we did the protocol, and a lot of my team have been trained in coordinate remote viewing. So they're familiar with reaching those stages of our consciousness. And nothing happened other than we saw a bunch of satellites in the sky. So we just basically sat around and talked. It was an uneventful night until the next morning. As we were packing up our gear to leave that Sunday, one of my team members came over to me, a gentleman by the name of Tony. His background, he's a graduate of the U.S. Air Force Academy, has a degree in engineering, and spent several years in the U.S. Air Force's Special Operations community. Now works as a consultant. Very solid, credible person. And he said, I woke up at 4:30, wide awake, and I had two words etched into my mind. And the words were Knox Magby, Noxmagbe, phonetically spelled. And he said, I woke up again at 06:30 with these same words. And he asked me if they meant anything to me. And of course they didn't. They meant nothing to me. But I would research it. So the next week I started researching, and I found out that Nox, N-O-X, is a Romanized version of Nyx, N-Y-X, which was the Greek goddess of the night, or goddess of the evening. So Nox was the Roman version of Nyx. So we have the goddess of the night. Magby turned out to be something a little bit more elusive. So I tried different spellings, different pronunciations, and I found a word called Magba, which is Old English, and it means kindred or children. Now, right after the Romans left Britain, and you know this as British history, and Old English started becoming its own language, it's reasonable to think that Knox and Magba were contemporaneous, that a person would have knowledge of these two words. So you put these together, and you have children of the night goddess. Now, you start thinking, what comes to people at night that have large heads like children and are short and have been somehow associated with UFOs?
Well, that's right, and that's how you would connect it, yeah.
That's
the Greys. Basically. Is that what we're talking about? The Greys, yeah.
Yeah, the Greys, yeah. So, is it a coincidence that these two words, came into this guy's mind who was out there doing CE5 protocol? I don't know. Like I said before, this is for people to make out of it whatever they wish. These are just nothing more than a reporting of our experiences. And, as recently as February last month, we were back out there, and recorded some strange lights in the night sky that we're still analyzing, that video footage. So, this is an ongoing investigation, and we will continue to go out there as long as we're permitted to, and have the, have the desire to put our boots on and trek out there and see what's happening.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you. Hey, what is the future of this? So, yeah, you are going to continue doing your research there. Do you think that it's going to be, you're going to document this more, video-wise for future expeditions?
Yeah, we are. And what we're doing is we're increasing some of our equipment, holdings. We have several what are called psionics color night vision cameras, which are really nice. So we have two of those, and so
it's not cheap stuff. Yeah.
No, it's not, and we're self-funded, so it can become quite expensive. And everything's a learning experience. After every expedition, we do a after-action review. Give me 3 pros, 3 cons. What did we do good? What did we do bad? What can be improved? And we're learning.
What is it about this land, do you think, that's creating this phenomena or these shifts in reality?
It's a good question. There are several locations like this throughout the world. You have, the Suicide Forest in Japan. It's a very strange place. You have Skinwalker Ranch here in the United States and Utah. Also here in the United States, you have Mesa Verde and Sedona, both of those out west. You have I'm going to butcher this, forgive me, it's Hoia-Baciu Forest in Romania is another one. So there are places on the earth where reality seems shifted or altered or influenced in some way, where maybe our 3-dimensional Euclidean world is tweaked just a little tiny bit. Now, why is that? You can start looking into physics and quantum mechanics, the multiverse theories and things like that. Maybe these are places where these are small singularities where data, energy, communications, and maybe even beings can pass to and fro. But as far as actually having an answer, I don't. I'm just a person grasping at straws here, trying to figure it out like everybody else.
What do you think is that pulling force? That's the thing that almost, keeps you going back to this. If I said, if you ask some people, what gets you up in the morning, but what is it that gets you there to that place?
That's an excellent question, because I've had people tell me there is no way they would go there at all. But we're all pioneers. We're adventurers. We're truth seekers. We want to know, where do we fit? What does our individual little piece of the puzzle look like, and how do we fit in the bigger puzzle of the universe? And you always have the explorers, of the world, the Magellans, the Lewis and Clarks, those kind of people that are willing to step out there and continue to seek out the answers. And sometimes those answers aren't forthcoming, but nevertheless, they're still out there making it happen every single day.
Absolutely. And if there was an important message, how would you summarize this?
The world is a lot stranger than we realize. And if people will just stop, take a deep breath, push the clutter aside, and look around, they might find the strangeness in their very own backyard.
Yes. Yeah. And do you find that, with the things that go on in your life more recently, that what you've experienced or are continuing to endeavor to search for, that it helps you understand that there's bigger things going on, and that what we think as endings are not the end, they're just new journeys?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, we had one of our team members pass away last year unexpectedly, and it caused us to refocus and reevaluate, where we are, not only in this specific project, but where we are in the universe. And it's comforting to know that maybe there is something else, and that perhaps we can maybe be just a little tiny part of it.
Absolutely. Well, it's going to be interesting as go further down the TV road and to see some of your work get onto well, not a larger stage, but I mean, you've already got the book out as well, which we're linking up on the screen and in the description below. And in the book, you go into much more detail than we've talked about right now. Do you know what I mean? You've shared these stories with a number of different hosts, probably, but there's many stories in the books that you have in the book that you haven't shared. So I would just like to say, Trey, just thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a real honor and a pleasure.